Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, and then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, number 2 would be Incredibles 2, number 3 would be Ocean's 8, number 4 would be Tag, and number 5 would be Solo, A Star Wars Story. And I only got 4 out of 5 of my predictions right. I was very close to a 5 out of 5, but an inevitable position switch that was bound to happen at some point actually happened this weekend. So if that didn't happen, I would have gotten a perfect 5. But whatever, let's go over the actual numbers. Number 1 was Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, and everyone kind of knew that it was going to be a big hit this weekend because the first Jurassic World broke a ton of records when it came out, making $208 million. A lot of people wondering how it's going to compare to that $208 million. It only made $150 million this weekend, but this is still a very high number, especially considering that this film and the last Jurassic World film aren't like highly praised masterpieces or anything. Like, these movies have gotten a lot of criticism, especially Fallen Kingdom. So the fact that it's only like a $58 million difference in between opening weekends is actually quite fantastic for this film. Also, worldwide, it is already sitting at $711 million. And when you look at the production budget of $170 million, double that, $340, triple that, $510, it's already making a ton of money. Like, quadruple that, $680. This movie's already quadrupled its initial production budget of $170 million. And the fact that it's already so close to $1 billion is phenomenal financially for this film. I am definitely very curious to see how it's going to last next weekend, how big the drop is going to be, because I do think once word of mouth starts to spread from the opening weekend public, I think then it's going to have like over a 50% drop. But right now, it is still doing phenomenally financially. I bet they're so happy that they already greenlit Jurassic World 3 because the money is definitely there. Moving on to number 2, we have Incredibles 2 making $80 million this weekend. In case you didn't remember, last weekend it opened with about 182, so it definitely had an over 50% drop, but still, it is already making a ton of money anyway, so it's not like we have to complain about that necessarily. That adds to a domestic total of $350 million, and on the worldwide chart, it is sitting at $485 million. It's 15 away from getting to $500 million worldwide, slowly getting up there to $1 billion each day, which is very good, and I finally got a good production budget from Wikipedia stating it's like $200 million, so double that, $400 million. It's already made $85 million over that doubling point, so this movie is doing phenomenally right now, only to get even better as the weeks go by, because I'm sure once Jurassic World, like next weekend, maybe that starts to drop a little bit. I think Incredibles 2 might have more staying power. I think that might have a better hold on its position. Number 3, we have Ocean's 8 making $11 million, adding to a domestic total of $100 million. And on the worldwide chart, it is sitting at $170, which is $30 million more than the doubling point of its $70 million budget. If it makes $40 million in the next coming weeks, it will be able to triple that budget. So Ocean's 8 is still also holding out very strongly, which is pretty good for a film that isn't really quite that loved. Like, critically, it's alright, but audiences weren't too big on it, but it's still making some money, so that's pretty good for Ocean's 8. I'm wondering if we'll ever get an announcement that Ocean's 9 or Oceans 9 and 10 are planned or something like that, but until then, this movie's doing pretty solidly. Moving on to number 4, we have Tag making $8 million, adding to a domestic total of $30 million. It still needs to get to $56 million to be considered a success. That is the doubling point, so it needs about $26 million more dollars, and I checked the worldwide chart, it's only like $1 million more than the domestic total, so far it's not looking too good. If it releases in a couple more places worldwide, then it probably can get to $56 million, but right now it's looking like it's just barely gonna make it if it can. Number 5 is Deadpool 2. It was actually able to switch positions with Solo for once. That was the thing I mentioned earlier, is that it was bound to happen because of the reaction to Solo, and now it's the time. Deadpool made $5 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $304 million, and on the worldwide chart, it is sitting at $707 million, which of course is very good for this film. It's still about 60 or so million away from the overall domestic total of the first Deadpool, and I don't think it's going to get there, obviously, but the fact that it's getting over $300 million right now is still very impressive for this film. But now let's move on to Solo, A Star Wars Story, which is number 6, only making $4 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $202 million. Domestically, it was finally able to get to over $200 million. What's it been like an entire month almost since the film was released, and now it's finally getting over $200 million? Jesus Christ. Worldwide, it is only sitting at $350 153, still not even close to getting that $500 million. This movie, I think you can definitely say it's a flop. It hasn't even gotten close to 500 million worldwide, or beyond that. I think it's safe to say that this is a big disaster. The fact that Disney is now thinking about their plans for the spin-off films, the fact that they're like reshuffling that or whatever, I think this box office definitely shows why. Moving on to number 7, we have Hereditary making $3.8 million, adding to a domestic total of $35 million, and on the worldwide chart it is sitting at 48, almost to 50 million worldwide, which is very good. I'm so happy that currently my favorite film of the year so far is still doing very well. It's made 28 million over its doubling point of its budget, and that's phenomenal. I hope that this film gets more attention in the theaters, but also maybe later on when it's out of theaters and you can rent it or buy it on Blu-ray or stuff like that. I hope this movie lives on for a very long time because it definitely deserves it. Number 8, we have Superfly making $3.3 million, adding to a domestic total of $15 million, which is $1 million under its production budget of 16, but it's still like 17 under its doubling point, which is what it desperately needs. So I think it's safe to say, since Superfly is about to leave the top 10 almost, I think it's safe to say that this film is a big flop for Sony. I believe it's Sony who made this, so that kind of sucks for them, but I didn't even know this movie existed until last week, so whatever. Moving on to number 9, we have Avengers Infinity War making $2 million, adding to a domestic total of $669 million, and on the worldwide chart it is sitting at $2.030 billion. So yeah, even though it hasn't so far been able to cross The Force Awakens worldwide, it's like 30 million away though, and the fact that it's still like about 30 million from topping Black Panther's domestic total, this film has still made an achievement as far as how many records it's broken, how much money it's made, and the fact that it's about to leave the top 10. It's gonna be sad to have to stop talking about this film's success, but I'm just glad that this film was as successful as it was, and it actually really did pay off. Number 10, closing out the video, Won't You Be My Neighbor, the new Mr. Rogers documentary that I don't know that much about, like quality-wise. Like I know that people really love it, but I haven't seen any trailers, and I haven't really seen the documentary in general, so I don't really have much to add. So let's just say it made $1 million this weekend, and that adds to a domestic total of $4 million on a budget of, I'm not really sure, because there's no official number out there. Now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I think, will still be Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, although I do think it will drop a lot. Number 2, Incredibles 2, I think that'll still hold out very well. Then number 3, I think, will be Sicario, Day of the Soldado. Number 4, Uncle Drew. And number 5, Ocean's 8. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave it in the comments below, and if you got your predictions right for this week, you're going to get a shout out right now. Unless you didn't get it right, then I'm sorry. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.